And there we go. Now we're recording. Anyway, so that's my phone number, 304-766-3125. That is my number to my office, but that is forwarded to my cell phone. So whenever you need me, and you need me quickly, really the best way to reach me is email. But if you need me quickly, you can call that number. You can call it any time of day. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's Thursday, 2 in the morning, and you need me, call me. Because, like I said, it's forwarded to my email. So if I'm asleep, my ringer is going to be off. You're not going to bother me. So if you're up on, like I said, 2 in the morning and you're studying, you're like, I just can't get this concept. There's no one else to talk to at 2 in the morning. Give me a call. Most likely I'll be asleep, but if I'm awake, I'll take it and I'll answer your call and hopefully answer your question. So yeah, there's my phone number. My office is 101. Whoa, that's not right. Oh, that's the department office. I'm sorry. The biology department office. So did you guys come through the front door of Hamblin Hall when you came in? But anyway, if you did, it's that office right to the right. That little office in the little nook and cranny there. That's the department office. That's where my mailbox is. So if you ever have anything you need to give me and I'm not in my office, you can bring it there. Here's the phone number if you need to talk to somebody in that office, 766-5778. So if you have any problems with me, I would hope you would take them up with me because hopefully we can fix them. But if for some reason you have a problem with me and don't feel like talking to me about it, that's where you go. You can call the department office and talk to this person right here. Her name is Tina Sanchez. You can tell her your issues with me, and she can get you in touch with the right person, whether it be my department chair or the dean, whatever it is. So she's the person to go to if you have issues with me. My email address, I've already talked about that. It's right there. You should have all received multiple emails from me by now. My office number is 131. So that's the floor above us, and it's on that side of the building, like towards the road. So it's easy to find. It says 131 right there on the door. Any questions about that? All right. Speaking of office, my office hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to 10:40 a.m. So basically, I'm going to be in my office guaranteed from right after class here until 10:40 in the morning. And I've already told you it's in 131. I'm easy to find. But also, when you look at the syllabus, you can see here that is a link. So when I'm online, when I'm in my office for office hours, I'm also online for my office hours. So you can click that. So if you're at home or don't feel like coming to talk to me but still need some help, that's what you do. Click that, and then you'll be there, and we'll meet online. Make sense? Any questions about that? Pretty simple, right? All right. Also, with my office hours, again, that's when I'm guaranteed to be there. But I'm there a lot outside of office hours. So feel free to stop by whenever you want. That doesn't mean that's the only time you can come to my office. That's me saying that's when you're guaranteed to find me in my office, whether online or in person. So yes, feel free to stop by anytime outside of the office hours if you want. And if I'm there, I'll be glad to help you. Same with the online. I might be at home on a Thursday at 2 in the afternoon, but if I'm working, I'll try to be online for my office hours too. So I'm always there. I'm always easy to find. So any questions about that? All right, lectures. All right, I'm going to come back to this topic, but this is a very important topic. I'm going to say it now at the beginning of the semester. You all signed up for a class that meets every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 8:50 a.m., right? You all signed up for it. You know that's what we're doing. It's not an in-person or online class. It is an in-person class. This is when we meet. However, there are exceptions. So there are ways where you don't have to come in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. From 8 to 8:50 physically. And I'm going to tell you where those exceptions are when we start talking about attendance. But for now, just keep that in the back of your mind. That's what you signed up for. So when I start telling you what you can do other than what we're doing now, I don't want you to think, oh, man, it's so hard. He makes us jump through so many hoops to not be here. But that's on purpose, right? Because you signed up for an online class. You didn't know there was going to be ways around it. So it doesn't matter if it's hard to do the other thing because that's what you signed up for. We good? All right, well, we'll come back to that. Labs. This can be confusing. I'll make sure everybody understands it. You guys are all in Bio 101, but you're either Section 1 or Section 2. If you are Section 1, we meet every Monday for lab from 2 to 3:50. And if you are Section 2, we meet every Wednesday for lab from 2 to 3:50. So it's not both, right? You're one or the other. And, sometimes that can be confusing. And I know I had one student had a concern and said, hey, I can't do both. You don't have to do both. You just have to do one or the other, whichever one you signed up for. If you don't know which one it is, email me or meet me online for office hours or in person for office hours, and we'll figure it out together. If I remember correctly, and I'm going to look at this and get back to you. I'll send you all a message. But if I remember correctly, the Wednesday section is like almost full, and the Monday section only has like 4 people. So eventually I'll be asking for volunteers if somebody wants to switch sections and meet on Monday instead of Wednesday, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Speaking of labs, we do not have lab this week. Lab starts next week. And later in the syllabus, we'll come back to lab. But for now, that's what you need to know. That's when we meet, and we don't start that until next week. So everybody good so far? Questions? All right. The objectives. This tells you what the course is all about. I'm not going to spend time today telling you what that's about because I'm going to ask you to go ahead and read that. That's your first assignment, is read the syllabus. And also throughout the semester, as anybody who's had me or knows somebody who's had me will tell you, I beat this dead horse a lot. I constantly tell you what this course is about, what it means to get an undergraduate degree and all that stuff. So for today, I'm going to skip it. Objectives, outcomes, all that stuff. Textbook. I highly recommend it. It's the Campbell's Essential Biology, Simon and Dickey, 7th edition, all that information. You can use that information to Google it and find it. I recommend getting a used version. It'd be a lot cheaper. If you can, maybe get in touch with my prior students and see if they think you need it. I don't know. In my opinion, you need it, but I've never taken my class. I've only given my class. My PowerPoints are pretty informative, and my study guides, which I'll talk about later, those are pretty informative. So again, if you can contact some students who have had me before, maybe they can give you some more information. Say, yeah, you definitely need the book, or no, there's enough information in the class where you don't need the book. But again, I personally think you need the book. I teach out of the book because this is a 100 level course, and you guys are non-biology majors. So for all those reasons, all the questions come from your book. All the test questions, all my PowerPoint, that all comes from your book, right? So I recommend it. Any questions about the textbook? All right. For the lab, there's something called the Principles of Biology Laboratory Manual. I've digitized it, so you will not physically be getting a copy. It'll be online, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But you don't have to carry around the lab manual anymore. Everything will be done online. You have access to it online. You'll turn it in online. Even though we're physically going to be in the laboratory doing experiments, when you turn your work in, it'll be online. And again, I'll explain that later. But you can always go to this syllabus and click that link, and it'll bring you to where you need to be. So any questions about the textbook or the laboratory manual? All right. You guys are pretty easy. All right, here's the part that people are really concerned about, the grading. The grading. Now, in my opinion, and no offense to anybody who's ever had me or know anybody who's had me, but in my opinion, this course is built for you to pass. I know sometimes it doesn't happen, but it is built for you to pass. And let's talk about why. All right, first of all, there's something called independent work, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about what that is later, but that is completely in your power to finish. It's 100 points worth of work, and for right now, I'll just say it's written work, and it's about 10 pages. So you have all semester, and that's a change if you've known anybody who's had me before. You have all semester to write 10 pages. A little bit here and there, not a 10-page paper, but like 5 sentences here, and 2 paragraphs there, and a page there, however it may work. And I'll talk about that later. But you have all semester to write about 10 pages worth of papers. Pretty simple, right? That's in your power. That's an easy, I'm sorry to say it, but that's an easy 100 points, especially if you start today when you get home. Attendance, also an easy 100 points. All you have to do is be here. And again, I told you there's some exceptions to that, right? There's other ways you can get the points without physically being here, and I'll talk to that when we get to the attendance section. But again, that's completely within your power. So there's 200 points right there, completely within your power, easy to get. Tests, I'll come back to that. Laboratory component, 300 points. And again, we'll talk about more about that when we get to that section of the syllabus. But in my opinion, as long as you're coming to lab and doing them, it's easy to get, I don't know, let's say 50%. Easy. Like if you just go and pardon my French, but half-ass it and just fill stuff out and turn it in when you're supposed to turn it in, it should be easy to get an easy 150 points. So what are we looking at there? 100, 200, 350. So right there, it's very, very easy with barely even trying to get 350 points. Now the total is 1,000, right? So you need 600 to pass, right? So you can easily get the 350 by barely even trying. So that means you need what? 50 brings it to 400. So you need 250 more points just to pass, right? And you can get those points The exams, we have 500 points worth of exams. Meaning, if you do all this other stuff I said and fail every exam, but at least hit a 50% mark, you still will be able to pass. And think about this, for the exams, they're multiple choice, generally speaking, 4 choices, like most multiple choice. Generally speaking, there's exceptions. But statistically, if you guess at every single question, you're bound to get 1 and 4 right. So 25% would be an exam where you just guessed at everything. So it's not very hard to get 50%. It's not. And again, I'm going to come back to this idea of exams a little bit later because there's going to be study guides and things I want to tell you about it. But that's my point. If you put in effort, it shouldn't be hard to pass. But I would tell you the key is to put in the effort early. And if you find somebody, if you know anybody who's had my class, hopefully they would tell you that. You have to put it in early. Technically, it's possible if like you start caring late, like, oh, I better fix my grade. It's possible, but it's easy if you start early. So any questions about the points? All right, another thing I want to say, especially because it's recording and this is day 1 and I'm going to say it throughout the semester, your grade is your grade. I don't bump grades up. I don't curve. Well, we'll talk about that later if we need to. But you see here, you need, what is it? A 900 for an A. So if you win the course and you have 899 points, then you have a B. So please don't get upset with me and be like, oh, why wouldn't you just give, it's only 1 point away. Why wouldn't you give me that B? Because I'm telling you now, go ahead and do what you need to do to bump your grade up. If you're only 1 point away from a B, that means had you spent a little bit longer studying for that one exam, or had you worked a little bit harder on that lab, or had you not missed that day of class, right? That's that 1 point you need. So that's your grade. You have to own it. There are very few exceptions to that. There's one person, and I won't get into it, but generally speaking, there's no exceptions to that, which is a good time to tell you there will be extra credit. I'll be giving you all kinds of little extra credit opportunities and ways for you to bump your grade up. In ways, and I'll talk about this when we get to lab, but for the lab grades, like you'll turn it in, I'll grade it, and then you'll have an opportunity, generally speaking, to fix it. So again, if you end up with an 899, but there's something you didn't fix, then you have a B because you had the power to bump yourself up to an A. Does that make sense? All right. I know that sounds harsh. I hope it doesn't sound harsh. It doesn't mean to sound harsh. I'm just trying to tell you from the beginning that you're going to own your grade. So think about that now and make it happen. So any questions about grades? All right. Assignment descriptions, due dates. There are no, I don't accept late work, basically. How do I put this? So yeah, you don't procrastinate, right? Go ahead and start early. If it's late, it's late. That being said, when it comes to things like lab, and I'll talk about this when we get there, and I just mentioned it earlier, when you turn in your lab, after I grade it, you still have the option to fix it, right? So technically, if you don't turn it in, that means you get a 0, right? But technically, you still have the option to fix it. So if you don't turn it in on time, that's a 0. But then let's say 3 days later, you turn it in, i.e. fix it, then I'm going to give you half credit for what you fixed. Therefore, you could get at least 50%. So on paper, I don't accept late work, but there, you can see there's a little bit of wiggle room there, right? You see what I'm saying? Like you can still fix stuff or turn it in late. And the reason why it's on paper that I don't accept late work is, well, 2 reasons. 1, I don't want anybody abusing that, the thing I just described. And 2, and this happens almost every semester, if students start at the last week or 2 of class, everybody starts turning in stuff that they missed and like, well, I'm turning in late for, half credit. I can't guarantee I'll have time to grade it, right? Because if everyone's turning in everything at once, I can't promise you that I will be able to grade it. So because of that, on paper, it says there's no late work accepted. So if you start turning in everything in on the last week of class and I don't grade it, you can't go to my dean and say, he didn't, of course I failed. He didn't grade my work. But I will bring up the syllabus and say, well, that's because no late work is accepted. Any questions about that? Okay, tests. There are 4 exams. Each one of the first 3 is worth 100 points apiece. They are generally multiple choice. They're all going to be done online unless you request otherwise. If you want a paper copy, I'll give you a paper copy, but they're generally online. And it's basically the pattern of 3 chapters, exam, 3 chapters, exam, 3 chapters, exam, 3 chapters, final exam. Pretty simple. And each of the first 3 exams is going to be about 50 questions. It's only going to cover the 3 chapters prior to that exam. And then finally, when we get to the final exam, you'll be about 100 questions, 50 of which are going to come from the first 3 exams, and 50 questions will come from the new material, the last 3 chapters of the semester. Any questions about that? All right. And depending on how everybody does, sometimes there's things I'll do. Like I might take the highest grade and set that as the highest grade possible. Meaning like, just to make the numbers easy, I don't know, if for some reason the highest grade was an 80, right? And then let's say you got 40. Well, 40 instead of it being 40 would then be 50, right? Because 40 is 50% of 80. Does that make sense? I might do something like that. Or I might say, hey, these were all pretty bad. You guys can all retake them. And then I'll take an average. So if you got a 50 the first time you took it, and then you got 100 the second time you took it, then you'll have a 75. Does that make sense? That's probably most likely what will happen. The only catch to that, it's not really a catch. It's here to protect you. If let's say you got a 70 the first time you took it, and then you're like, I'm going to try it again, and then you get a 60, I'm not going to average that. I'm just going to give you your higher grade. So for some weird reason, something happens and you get a lower grade, we're going to keep your higher grade. So you can only do better in the case where we have an exam and I say, you guys can retake it. Your grade will only improve. And really quickly, let me say this. For the exams, there are study guides, and they are already posted. So if you go to Google Classroom, you can see right here under the classwork, this is like the table of contents, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, they're all right there. So if you click any of these chapters, you can see each chapter has, well, it's got the PowerPoint. It's got all my lectures from previous semesters, so you can watch my old lectures because they're so exciting. I'm sure you're going to want to do that. Maybe call your friends over and you guys can watch them together. Other than right here, here's what I'm looking for, the study guide. So you can do the study guides and you get points for it. I'll explain that later. But when I write the exams, I take those study guides, the questions that I've given you and that I'll also give you the answers to, and I reword them. So when you take the exams, as long as you've done the study guides, you'll have seen some version, for the most part, of every single question on the exam. I will have reworded it, and we'll also have exam reviews. And in those days, I'll take these study guides and I'll explain the answers, not just give them to you. I'll explain why this is the wrong answer and why this is the right answer. And I'll sometimes even explain how I might reword it on the exam. So when you take the exam, as long as you put in the effort beforehand, nothing should surprise you. Well, there'll be a couple questions maybe that like, I wasn't expecting that. But really, I literally mean just a couple. So for the most part, as long as you study the book, study the study guides, pay attention to class, you should be fine. Let me get back to where I was. Sorry about this. Syllabus. While I'm pulling this up, does anybody have any questions so far? All right. Zoom in here. So we're done talking about exams. Yep, done talking about that. Independent work. I'm going to explain more about this as the semester goes on. Today, what you need to know is you have all semester to earn 100 points. And for today, let's just call it written work, right? You have 100 points worth of written work you need to do. And generally speaking, where is it at? A perfectly written paper will be worth about 10 points per page, or about 0.4 points, 4 or 5 points per line. So here's where it gets tricky. And I want to make sure you understand it now. And I don't make it tricky to be hard, but I make it tricky to help you. There is no minimum to how long your papers have to be. Because I don't want you, if you don't like writing long papers, I don't want you to write long papers. If you want to, if you see an article like, scientists just found out that whales like to have sex on the beach. Like, what? That's weird. If you want to read that article and then summarize it in your own words and turn it into me, and it's only a few sentences, that's fine. You provide your reference, like, I just read this article, and it said this species of whales likes to have sex on the beach because it protects them from aquatic predators. That could be your paper. It's only a couple sentences long, right? I don't care. The idea here, I wish I could draw it. You ever seen one of those fundraisers where it's like a little thermometer, and as the people get more money, the thermometer goes up? That's independent work. You just keep chipping away at it. It's like you're putting money in the piggy bank until you hit 100 points. You don't have to have a long paper. You can do long papers, but you don't have to. Just keep writing, keep turning stuff in until you hit 100 points. Does everybody understand that? I want to make sure that part's really clear because that usually confuses some people. Yes?
Well, each different you say keep writing, will it be like different things to write about?
Yes, good question. I should have clarified that too. This is the other good part, in my opinion. This is why I made independent work. You write what you want to write about. I'm not going to tell you what to write about. It just has to be about biology, because I am teaching you the biology, what you have to know about biology, which frankly is a little bit boring. To understand the more exciting stuff or the more important stuff, like how COVID vaccines work, you need to understand this boring stuff that I'm going to teach you. So what I want from independent work, hopefully, is you'll go find something that you're interested in. If you're an athlete, you might look at biology stuff about that, like how does the body metabolize things, and how do muscles grow bigger? How do you make your muscles move faster? Whatever, right? Hopefully, you'll find stuff that interests you. And basically, your two main ways of writing stuff, in my opinion, they don't have to be this. You're not limited to this, or either summarizing articles. Like I said, you might read something like, oh, that's cool, and then just rewrite it, and don't rewrite it. Summarize it in your own words and say, this is what this paper was about. Or think of a question and answer it. Like maybe sickle cell disease runs in your family, and you're like, I was wondering about sickle cell anemia. According to this source, blah, blah, blah. According to that source, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. I want you to figure out something that you want to write about for independent work, as long as it's about biology. It's a great question. One thing that's new from different semesters is now when you turn it in, it will be on Google Classroom. And I'll show you that later. But for now, that's what we need to focus on. Now you need to, oh, sorry, questions? Yes?
So all the work is like Google Classes is not on the website.
Yeah, the great question too. I don't use WVSU online. I'll explain that if you want to. If you want to meet me in office hours, I can explain to you why. But I use Google Classroom. That being said, this is the way I've set things up. If for some reason you absolutely don't want to do it this way, I'm like, well, I want to turn in things this way. Then meet with me and we'll maybe work something out. Talk to me about why you don't want to use Google Classroom and what your alternative, what you want to do. Let me know. So anyway, yeah, that's independent work. Again, there's other things you can do. Like I already mentioned, study guides. You can do study guides. That'll count towards independent work. I'm going to give videos you can watch for independent work. I'll give you extra credit opportunities throughout the semester. Like, hey, if you do this, I'll give you a point of independent work, so on and so forth. So that's how this is going to work. What's different this time, for the first time ever, now, it used to be I used to have it do 10 weeks. You had 10 weeks to do independent work because the math was easy. 1 page per week is what you had. Now, you have basically all semester. The first due date, this doesn't start until next Sunday. So next Sunday is the first due date. I'll come back to that. But you have until May 8th to get this done. May 8th to get 100 points. So that means you need 7.2 points worth of work per week for your grade. At least. That's minimum, right? That's for full credit. 7.2 points worth of work. Meaning, from now until the end of the semester, if you write less than 1 page a week, you'll be getting full credit. Less than 1 page. That's not hard. And it's double spaced. Okay? What else to say about that? Oh, yeah. So because I have to give you a grade, rather than just be like, all right, this is all due at the end, what is due every week is 7.2 points worth of work. Every week, starting on Sunday, January 30th. So not this Sunday, because I want, everywhere we're all trying to get acclimated to the class. So starting next Sunday, you're going to have, that's when your first due date is. And then it's 1 week after that. Every week you need at least 7.2 points worth of work for your grade. Make sense? Okay. And that's a minimum. Now, for some people do, every semester there's always 1 or 2 students who do this. You might go in the next 2 weeks, write 100 points worth of work, and then you're done for the semester. You can do that. There's no problem with working ahead. I'm just setting, that's the minimum. You just need to get 7.2 points of work a week for your grade, especially for your athletes. And I only say that because you guys have those sheets that you need me to fill out, right? Hey, what's my grade? So you're the people who regularly need grades. And that's part of how I'm going to do it. So if you bring me a sheet and you've done 0 independent work, then that's going to hurt your grade. Of course, at the end, if at the end of the semester you did 100 points, then that kind of erases the fact that you weren't doing good at the beginning. But yeah. So I want to make sure everybody, that's for most people, this is the most confusing aspect of the course. So everybody understands this, right? 7.2 points per week. Yeah. And again, it's mostly writing assignments, but I'll give you other options too. That being said, I'm sure you've all seen the email, but if you haven't, let me know. If you join my Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, a lot of times I'll share articles that are relevant to this course. And if one of them catches your eye, I'm like, oh, that looks like something I might actually be interested in reading. Then you can read it and then summarize it for independent work. Now, obviously, you don't have to. What I'm trying to do is pick stuff that I think you might like. Like, I don't know, I'm interested in this, or I think a history major might be interested in this, or I think a student athlete might be interested in this. So I'll share them with you. And again, hopefully you'll find something you like. But you're not limited to that. I don't care where you find your source. I mean, I'll talk about that later. But yes, it's up to you. Find stuff that you're interested in and write about it. All right. But yes, the last day is May 8th. And that is one due date that I won't, you can't be late. Anything past that, you're just out of luck, because May 8th is the Sunday before finals week. So, after that, you're done. Any questions about that? All right. Let's see, 828. Okay. School closing. Here we go. School closings. As far as I'm concerned, there won't be any school closings. Excuse me. Because if the campus closes, we'll just meet online. And again, I'll remind you, to meet online, you go up here, to the syllabus, and it says right there, you just click that. And then it'll bring you to the Google Classroom, to the Google link, and we'll be online. So if for some reason we can't meet on campus, we will meet online. I'll come back to that. It sounds like bad news, like, that's not good, but it is, and I'll explain why later. Where are we at? Yeah, school closing. Late work, I've already talked about that. On paper, late work is not accepted, right? On paper, that's the case. Off record, turn it in, turn it in. If you can, I'll give you credit if I can. Exams. Yeah, you don't want to miss an exam. You'll be a penalty of 10% per day that you don't take it. So if we have an exam on Wednesday and then you don't take it till Friday, so that's Thursday, Friday, right? Well, that's Thursday. So that's one. So you'll lose 10%. So if you take it on the Friday instead of the Wednesday and you score 100%, well, you'll end up with a grade of a 90%. Only because it's not fair to your classmates, because you would have had a little bit of extra time to study for it. Another thing about the exams, and this reminds me, if you want to take it early for some reason, or you don't want it, if you want to take it late, a little bit later that day, as long as we make arrangements beforehand, you're okay. And again, it's a timed thing, right? Because we only have 50 minutes per class. But if you don't like that kind of pressure and you don't want it to be timed, you want more time to take it, contact me before we have the exam. I will find a time for us to meet either in person or online, and you can take all the time in the world to take the exam. I don't care. The only reason you only have 50 minutes to take the exam is because that's how long this class is. If you need more time to take it and we arrange it beforehand, I don't care. As long as I know that you're not looking at notes or looking at the book or no one's helping you, I don't care if it takes you all day. I'll be there for you, right there, watching you, making sure you're not cheating. But yeah, take as long as you want. All right. Yeah, so exams, don't miss them. If you know you're going to miss them, arrange it beforehand so we can figure something out. That way you don't lose any points. That's the prior permission part. If you miss it for an emergency, it is what it is. Again, it'll be a 10% penalty, because even though it's an emergency, you'll still have had extra time to study, right? Depending on the emergency, and we'll talk about that if we need to. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. So any questions about that? All right, student expectations. This is pretty easy. Basically, I'm here to teach and you're here to learn, so don't do anything outside of that, right? So, if you're texting, I don't recommend it, because you can't learn if you're texting, but whatever, I'm not going to stop you, because that would be disrupting everyone else from learning, right? If I stop teaching to tell you to stop texting, then everybody else stops learning. So I'm not going to do that. But I don't recommend it. Sleeping, I don't recommend that, because you're not learning if you're sleeping. But hey, again, I'm not going to stop teaching it to wake you up, because that stops everyone else from learning. Now, snoring, on the other hand, I will wake you up, because snoring is distracting, and I don't want you to distract everybody. Eating, officially the rules are there's no eating or drinking in this room, I think. I don't care. Eat or drink if you want. There's COVID too that you should be careful about, but whatever. As long as you clean up after yourself, I don't care. But again, don't disrupt the learning environment. So don't bring a bag of Doritos and I'm trying to talk and you're right. That's no good, because then people can't hear. Or don't bring in some really stinky food, or maybe some really spicy food that's burning people's eyes, right? As long as it's not disrupting the class environment, I don't care. Same thing with bathroom breaks. I don't care if you got to go. You don't need to ask me. Matter of fact, asking me would be more disturbing than just quietly slipping out and slipping back in. So good on that. I also expect you to read the book. I'm telling you, this class is built for you to pass. other than like a handful of people, as far as I know, I have no way of knowing this for sure. I don't think there's anybody who's ever truly tried this class and had a problem passing. Like truly came in, paid attention every day, read the textbook at least once, and paid attention during the lectures and did what was expected of them. I don't think so. I did have one student who's really, really tried hard, and the technology was actually getting to them. But other than that, I don't think so. So read the books before, like, so between now and Friday, go ahead and read chapter 1, or at least the beginnings of it, as much as you can get. That way, when you come in, I'm only explaining what you've already read. That way I can clarify anything. You're like, oh, I misunderstood what I read that the wrong way. And then I clarify it. Or you'll read it and I'm like, oh, that didn't make sense. And then when it comes time for me to explain it, you'll know to pay attention. Like, that didn't make sense when I read it, so let me pay attention. So read the book, come to class, pay attention. Pay attention is a big thing too. I can tell the students who don't pay attention. Like, I can tell when they're texting or they're on their phone. Or I'm not saying you're doing this, but they're way back there. They've got their computers up. I don't know what you're looking at, but sometimes I can tell if you're obviously looking at something very intriguing because you're clearly not paying attention. And those students are always the ones I can tell too by the questions they ask me. So I'll say a lot between now and the first exam. Don't forget, guys, the exam's coming. This chapter's on the exam. This chapter's on the exam. I'll say so many times the first 3 chapters are going to be on the first exam. And then right before the exam, somebody will ask me that question, which chapter's on the exam? And that tells what I don't judge because maybe they're just clarifying. But most likely that's a student who wasn't paying attention. Pay attention. Come to class, read the book, pay attention. I'm begging you. If you do that, everything should be okay, I think. And then finally this, because I do everything on Google Classroom, every time I post something to Google Classroom, it'll send you an email. So please check your emails. At least every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but try to check them more often than that. Because I'm trying to give you like extra credit opportunities or say, hey, if you're having problems with this, I can help you this way, give you advice. So please check your emails. Any questions about student expectations? All right, lab very quickly. Again, I already said we are meeting every Monday or Wednesday, depending on your section, from 2 to 3:50. The new thing, if you've ever talked to anybody who's had me, they might tell you how things work, and mostly it's the same other than the independent work, which I just talked about, and now this. So now when we come into lab, plan to be there from 2 to 3:50. We have experiments to do. And here's how we're going to leave. You either leave at 3:50, because obviously I can't keep you past that, or when you're done with the lab. So what you'll do, and I'll have a lab assistant this time, is when you're done with the lab, you show the lab assistant, and he'll say, yep, you're done, and he'll mark something on his paper so I know, and then you can leave. So plan on being there from 2 to 3:50. That's what you should plan on. But I'm telling you, off the record, they usually don't last that long. So sometimes, very often, you'll be done way before that. But I want you to plan your schedule as if you'll be there, because I don't want you to make lunch plans from somebody like, yeah, I'll be there at 3, because I'm usually done by 3. You might usually be done by 3, but then one day you might have an experiment that takes longer, and then you're there longer. So please plan on being there that long. And that's your ticket to leave, again, either 3:50 or once you show the instructor that you're done with the lab, that's when you leave. Any questions about that? All right. And you have to be there. Again, for attendance, I'll come back to that. Attendance, there are other options. But for lab, you physically have to be there. And if you know you can't be, contact me beforehand so we can make some arrangements. Like if there's a COVID issue or whatever the case may be, contact me beforehand and we'll make some arrangements. What else about lab? Some labs will be online. Again, because of COVID, who knows? They might lock the campus down, in which case I might have planned an in-person lab and then it might have to go online. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Plus, towards the end of the semester, a lot of the stuff we're doing, you can't really do in an experiment. We're going to be looking at ecosystems, like how do ecosystems change over hundreds of years? Well, we can't sit in a laboratory and watch an ecosystem change for 100 years, right? But we can go online and do some virtual experiments. So towards the end, there'll be some more online labs. Lab worksheets. I've already posted a video on how to do this, and I'll discuss this more when we're physically in lab. But again, everything is on. All the lab worksheets are online. Even though we're doing the experiments in person, everything you turn in is going to be online. And again, I'll help you with that when the time comes when we actually meet for lab. And I'm actually going to come back to that in a second. Yeah, there's not much else to say. Okay, the point breakdown. Again, lab itself is worth 300 points, and the whole course is worth 1,000. So think about like if you were a complete A student, never missed a class, never missed a question on the exams, got all your independent work. Let's say you got 100% on everything else. If you got a 0% on lab, you would have 700, right? So you'd have a C. So you'd go from like a 100% A to barely a C because the 699 would be a D, right? So lab's important. It's a big chunk of it. Each time we meet, it's basically worth 20 points because you're going to have the actual worksheet that you do, the lab worksheet, the experiment, that's worth 15 points. And then before you come in, there's a worksheet that you need to do, and that's worth 5 points. So 5 plus 15 is 20. So every week we meet, it's worth 20 points. And then there's one lab report you're going to do, and I'll talk about that when we get there. But that's going to be the photosynthesis respiration lab report, and it is also worth 20 points. So basically, that lab report is worth an entire week of lab. Make sense? All right. Now, again, with lab, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to show you the difference between a pre-lab and a lab. Even though I've already posted the video, I still want to show you. We're almost done here. Here's the course tentative schedule. The key word there is tentative. Things might change. But it's pretty simple. Again, like I said earlier, it's basically chapter, 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 exam. Chapter, 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 exam. Chapter, 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 exam. That's the pattern. You'll see here, though, for example, right here on the fourth week, which is the week of February 7th, we're going to have the first exam. That's when we're scheduled to have the first exam. There's a few things I want to point out about this. First of all, like I said, it's tentative, so that could change. Second, it says the week of February 7th. So that doesn't mean the exam is going to be on February 7th. February 7th is a Monday. That just means the exam right now is scheduled to be sometime during that week. Does that make sense? Because some people will get confused and that might freak them out, and I don't want to stress you out any more than you need to. So don't be looking at this on February 5th and say, oh my God, the exam's on February 7th. No, the exam right now is scheduled for the week of February 7th. Another thing to point out, right? So look, week 1, we're going to learn about chapter 1. Week 2, chapter 2. Week 3, chapter 3. Week 4, it says exam 1. We're not going to take all week to do the the exam. But we're just saying that that's the week that it's going to fall on. So again, that's why I'm saying this is very tentative. Most likely chapter 1 will probably bleed into week 2 a little bit. And chapter 2 will probably bleed into week 3. And chapter 3 will probably bleed into week 4, so on and so forth. None of this is set in stone. That's just the general tentative schedule. We good there? All right. Another thing to bring up right now, while it's early, these first chapters are usually pretty quick. I'd say chapters 1 through 3 are very quick. Chapters 5, 6, I need to fix that. That's backwards. Anyway, chapters 5, 6, and 7 are pretty quick, not as quick as the first 3. Anyway, my point is, towards the end, chapters 13, 19, and 20, that's a lot of information. So they're actually a little bit slower. So again, in all actuality, it'll probably take longer than 1 week to do chapter 13 and chapter 19 and chapter 20. So this is all tentative. That's what it is. But what else? Yeah, that's it. Again, no lab this week. No lab on finals week. Lab every time in between. That's the tentative schedule. Now, are there any questions about that before I move forward? We're doing good. We have 10 minutes. This might be perfect timing. Now I want to go back to attendance. Like I said, you have all signed up for an in-person class that meets every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here at 8 to 8:50. However, if you don't want to show up, whatever reason, you're not feeling good, you fell asleep, you're hungover, you're just not feeling it, I don't care. Like I already said, you have options. What you can do is click this button right here, and it'll bring you here, and you can watch it live, right? Speaking of which, if you're watching it live right now, I don't think anyone is. No one's here. So if you're watching this recording, actually don't worry about that. So watch it live. That's your first option. Here's your second option. Every day, if I have the time, hopefully I do it every day. If not, I'll do it as soon as I can. After every lecture, I will post a video of the lecture. And I will say, if you missed class today and you were not accounted for attendance, here's what you need to do for attendance. And you had to pay attention to that email. This is where I was telling you about jumping through hoops and making it hard. Because again, you've signed up for an online class. So when you get these emails with the videos, that's where it's going to be tricky and you have to pay attention. Sometimes I might just say, all right, there's 4 keywords in the video. You have to tell me what the keywords are. Sometimes I'll post a video and say, you need to answer all these questions that go along with the video. And I know that seems like a pain, but that's what it is. If you chose not to come to class, those are your options. You can watch it all live online, like we're doing now. Well, no one's here, but that's what you would do. Or again, after I post the video, you need to follow the instructions that come with that video. Do this to get your attendance points. That makes sense? So there are options. Most likely you'll have to watch a video and answer questions while you're watching the video to get your attendance points, but you don't have to be here. In all actuality, in my opinion, it's even, I don't know, my colleagues don't agree, but I think if you're doing it online and you're watching the video, so you're not doing it live and you have to watch the videos, the disadvantage is you can't interact. You can't ask questions. You can't talk. The advantage is, well, on my end, it's an advantage. It's not an advantage on your end. On your end, you have to answer questions as you're doing it. So I'll be talking. You have to answer a question like online. Answer multiple choice questions to prove you watched it. So it's a real pain in the rear for you guys, but it forces you to watch it. Like it forces you to pay attention to the video. So, you could come in if you want and sit here and just completely daze out, and I might not know, right? You could sit through a whole lecture and got nothing. But if you're watching the video and you're answering the questions, you're kind of forced to pay attention. So again, those are the options. You don't have to be here if you don't want. You don't need to give me any heads up. I don't care. Don't show up. Do show up. I don't care. You don't need to let me know beforehand. Just make sure sometime afterwards you do whatever it is I tell you to do when I send that email out to get your attendance points. Everybody good? All right. So again, I understand lab and independent work are going to be a little bit tricky because they're on Google Classroom. I've already posted videos on how to do it, so you can find those on Google Classroom, or you can come to me for help in office hours, and I will walk you through it. I will hold your hand and walk you through labs and independent work. But I will say this, for independent work, this is what's new from all my other previous semesters. Now every week, there's going to be an assignment that's posted. Hopefully you've already seen it. And this is it. Every week, there's this form for you. You go in here. The directions are always going to be the same. These are the directions right here. And then right under here, you write your paper or papers, whatever it is. Multiple. You just keep writing as much as you want that week, and I'll give you your grade. And that's it. And as I'll say, if you've already watched the video, I'm sorry, but hit the share button. Put my name in there. Oh, it's already there. Put my name. Put me as the editor, and that's it. And that's how I'll grade your papers. And again, if for some reason you don't like doing it online, talk to me and we'll make arrangements. This is how I have it set up. But if for some reason that doesn't work for you, talk to me and we'll make arrangements. We'll figure something else out. Any questions? All right. In that case, we will meet Friday at 8 o'clock. And you're on the assignment right now. Well, let me change that. Read the syllabus. And look at the pre-lab. Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Let me show you the pre-lab very quickly, where to find that. If you look under here in the classroom and go down to lab, you can see right here, lab 1. You've already been assigned lab 1, right? So you'll open it up. Almost every lab we do this semester is going to have a pre-lab and a lab. The pre-lab is worth 5 points. You have to do it before you come into lab because you need to be prepared for the experiment that's coming. So what you'll do is you'll read the introduction right here. Right there is the introduction. I've also posted videos you can watch about this. And then right here, pre-lab questions. You have to fill this out before you come to lab. Actually, this will be due Sunday. This Sunday is when the pre-lab is due because you guys have lab next week, right? So Sunday is when your pre-lab is due. That way I have time to correct it and give you feedback. That way when you come to lab on Monday or Wednesday, you're ready. So turn this in by Sunday. And if you need help, yes, good. Questions? Good. Yeah. So, and you'll see a lot of that. So questions 9 and 10 in the pre-lab said, keep going and answer questions 1 and answers questions 2 below. And just to even make sure it's even clearer, I even color coded it. So question 1 is red, question 2 is blue. So question 1, write at least one question based on your observation. So you're going to read this whole thing, right? This whole thing. It's only like 3 paragraphs. Read this. You're going to write a question, and then you're going to write a hypothesis. That's generally the answer. So after you read that, if you have questions, let me know. You good? Okay. And a lot of them will be like that. So a lot of the pre-labs, they'll be at the end. It'll say, go ahead and do the hypothesis questions. Excuse me. So whenever you come across anything that looks like that might be confusing to you, don't just throw your hands up and be like, I don't know what to do. Come to me. I'll help you. I'll walk you through this one-on-one. We can meet online. We can meet in person, and I'll help you do it. These are not exams. So you can ask me question for each one. You'd be like, can you re-explain question 1? Can you re-explain question 2? I'm there for you. I'm here to help. So yeah. Any other questions? All right. Make sure you do that by Sunday. Make sure you read the chapter 1 by Friday. Make sure you read the syllabus by Friday, and take a look at Google Classroom between now and Friday too. All right. If that's it, I'll see you guys Friday or during my office hours, whatever you want. Thank you, too.